Hey, it's Tracy with Record Fuel, and I wanted to talk about 10 classic great albums that are in most all collectors' collections that they rarely ever listen to. So I'm going to start with Pearl Jam 10. That's right, Pearl Jam's first debut album. It is a classic, and it is probably their masterpiece for them. They've had a lot of great music, but this is a album that kicked it all off for them. I wound up getting this on eBay years and years ago. I purchased it, and it is an original pressing from 1991, and it's just a great album. I would say that my three favorite songs on it is Garden, Black, and Oceans. Came with this inner sleeve. Again, that's why we like albums, is they got all these cool information and inner sleeves of it, but I rarely ever listen to this album. So going down to number 9, which is Nirvana, Nevermind. I picked this album up. It is 180 gram, and I have never listened to this album. This album, when it came out, I had it on cassette and CD, and I think I just wore them out in that. So I've listened to this album hundreds and hundreds of times. I think the songs that I like off of this one the most is Lithium, In Bloom, and of course Smells Like Teen Spirit. Interesting fact about this album that I have, it was obviously done by Sub Pop and Geffen Music, but this 180 gram quote audiophile style of album was pressed in Germany. So I think for some reason I picked it up at Target a few years back, but again, never listened to this album. So number is a great album back in the 70s, which is Boston's debut album. It is just an amazing album through and through. I think the songs that I like off of this album is, of course, More Than a Feeling, right? Smokin', which is a great, just fast pop hard rock song for back then. Hitch a Ride is really good. Something About You, and Let Me Take You Home Tonight. I think Something About You is probably my favorite song off of this album. Again, for some reason, this album, and when I purchased it, again, it shows as a 76 pressing. I probably bought it in 77, 78, somewhere around in there. But it is in extremely good shape. For some reason, I think it's because of the artwork on the front that I kept this album in really good shape. Some of the albums that I have from back in the 70s or early 80s that I purchased just have been worn and ragged because I played them so much. But this is still in great shape. I saw Boston on their first tour at Kansas City here at Municipal Auditorium, and Sammy Hagar opened up for them. So Boston, another great classic rock album of the day was Van Halen. Van Halen 1, or so it's termed, right? And this is another one as you can look at. This is a little bit beat up. I got some ring wear on it, but this was an album that I bought back when it came out. Has the inner sleeves. Of course, it has, some photos when you put it in that. I've replaced it with the nice protective sleeves. But Van Halen, which has Jamie's Crying, Ain't Talking About Love, my favorite, Little Dreamer, and of course, Eruption, which is just a great guitar solo by Eddie Van Halen on this album. So as the countdown continues, we have a band, their debut album, The Cars. That's right, The Cars. Rick Ocasek and The Cars. I saw this band at a summer jam at Arrowhead Stadium here in Kansas City, and if I recall, it was Missouri, Sammy Hagar, The Cars, Hart and Ted Nugent headlined that show. But back in the day with that, you got these really cool inner sleeves. I mean, in the Cars, they have like The Good Times Roll, Best Friend's Girl, you know, Just What I Needed. But I think my favorite on this is Moving in Stereo. And for some reason, these are just albums that are great that I don't listen to for some reason. I don't pick them up. I don't pull them out and listen to them at all. So, one of probably the greatest rock songs or songs ever written is on this album. And if you don't know this band's catalog, you really need to dive into it. Their music is so diverse, from pop to rock to classical to instrumental kind of, and it's just very, very diverse. Which is Queen, and this is The Night at the Opera, which has the classic Bohemian Rhapsody on it. So this is a press off of Hollywood Records that I picked up, and of course it has all the lyrics inside of it, but I very rarely pull this out to listen to it, and if I do, I'm not pulling it out to listen to the whole album. I just kind of want to hear a song or two off of it, but I very rarely listen to it. Of course, it has Bohemian Rhapsody, and that's probably why, because that song has been played, obviously, thousands and thousands of times on the radios and TV shows and stuff, and so it's just that. But there are so many good songs on this album that, you know, of course, Bohemian Rhapsody, but You're My Best Friend, which was a great smash hit for them. I'm in Love with My Car, which if you've seen the documentary, it has a kind of a little bit in that why did he write this song, but it's kind of a quirky little song of it. And my favorite off this album is kind of a really hard rock, kind of a little, for them, a grungy sound, but it is called Sweet Lady. So another album that I don't seem to pull out and listen to. This next album, I had the mono version of it, and I literally just couldn't listen to it. There was just something about it that I couldn't get all the way through the album, so I wound up buying the 50th anniversary stereo edition, which is the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds, and it's a great album. If you've never seen the documentary with Brian Wilson about the making of Pet Sounds, you got to tune in and look for it. I believe it's on Netflix, or you can still rent it on Apple. But, you know, this has the big smash hits, Wouldn't It Be Nice? And, of course, my favorite off this album, God Only Knows. But this is just an album for some reason that I just don't pull out and I don't listen to. I'm glad it's in my collection, but I just don't pull it out and look at it and listen to it. So this is an album that I have to be in the mood to listen to it. You'll hear some of the stuff on the radio occasionally, but it is one of the most iconic albums ever made, visually and sound, right? Which is Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. Now this is a reissue that I got, and has the lyrics to the songs that are on it. Now this is an album that you have to listen all the way through just to get its entirety and feel the whole, the soul of this album and what it's all about. You know, I think on this though, if I had to pick two of my favorite songs off of it, it is Time and Us and Them. So again, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon is number 3 of what I would call a classic album I have that I very rarely listen to. This album, I pulled it out when getting ready to do this video, and I listened to it, and the sound is just amazing. Looking back at when I purchased this album, it was probably the only reason I bought this version of it is because that's what was available when I went to buy it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have seeked it out. It is the Beatles' White Album, and it is an original master recording. And I think at the time when this came out, I didn't really I wasn't really in love with it. I didn't think, oh my gosh, this is just the best ever. And as time has gone on and I've listened to it, it's a masterpiece, obviously. But knowing now the original master recording, which I'll get you look up at the label there, original master recording, by Mobile Fidelity, which is super cool to have. I haven't really have very many Mobile Fidelity pressings, but when I just listen to this, it is simply stunning of how good it sounds. But now I have this greater appreciation of the White Album and hearing it, but I just don't pull it out. I just don't listen to it really hardly at all. I've got so many albums of the Beatles that this is just a classic that I don't pull out. And the number one album that I don't listen to that is a classic, that is just probably, in my opinion, the best rock song ever written, performed, produced. It is just simply amazing, which is Led Zeppelin 4, Stairway to Heaven on it. And of course, I think that is just the pinnacle of all rock songs. It is just absolutely something else. Now, this album has so many good songs on it, not just including Stairway to Heaven, that it's surprising that I don't pull out and listen to it. I mean, it has Black Dog, Rock and Roll, Battle of Evermore, Misty Mountain Hop, Four Sticks, Going to California, and of course, the great classic, When the Levee Breaks. So that's the good thing about these inner sleeves is it has all this information on it. So those are the albums that I have 10 in my collection that I very rarely pull out and listen to. What are albums in your collection that you don't pull out, that you think are classics, that you should? Tell me what you think. Make comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. It's Tracy with Record Fuel. Thank you.